You're now under arrest. Please sit down and wait for instruction.
Wait, did you catch that? Things just went from 0 to 100 in Maple Grove. The police didn't just show up, they charged. This is the moment a peaceful assembly turned into a total lockdown at the Spring Hill Suites. You need to see why this happened.
Lethal devices, which may inflict significant pain or result in serious injury. The following routes of dispersal are available. Please leave to the south or the southeast towards Hemlock. You have 1 minute to disperse. If you continue to obstruct, resist, or interfere with the police officers, you'll be in violation of Minnesota State Statute 609.50, obstructing a legal process, which is additional crime. You are now under arrest. Please sit down and wait for instruction.
Look at the sheer volume of officers there. We're talking local police, state patrol, even the DNR responded. Why? Because the crowd believed Border Patrol Commander Gregory Bovino was inside. If you look closely at the background around 3:30, you can see the barricades they were trying to set up. The tension is thick enough to cut with a knife. What's wild is that Bovino was actually being moved out of the state the very next morning. These protesters were laying siege to a hotel based on a rumor that was already expiring. This wasn't just a protest. It was a high-stakes game of cat and mouse that ended with 35 people in zip ties. Notice how the police are using less lethal rounds and pepper balls. It's a complete tactical shift for Minnesota.
The message is out that Tom Homan is in.
Yeah.
Commander Bovino is supposedly leaving Minneapolis along with some CBP agents. Is this a pullback?
I don't think it's a pullback. It's a little bit of a change. Everybody in this room that has a business, you make little changes. Bovino's very good, but he's a pretty out there kind of a guy. And in some cases, that's good. Maybe it wasn't good here. But you have to understand, when I watch some of the people that I've been watching over the last few weeks, these are paid insurrectionists. These are paid agitators. These people aren't normal, like, that, they're incensed about anything. How do you get incensed when you go into a state and you're taking criminals out? You're taking monsters out, murderers. We had 11,888 murderers let into our country by other countries, by Biden with his open border stupid policy. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You talk about bad policy. Open borders where people were coming, so the whole world, the Congo, Venezuela, all over the world, they're letting people in from their prisons and they're feeding them into the United States. And they're murderers and they're drug dealers and they're everything else you can think of, every bad name you can think of. And they let them in by the millions. We closed the border. We have nobody coming into our country.
Now, check out Trump's reaction here. He's in a diner in Urbandale, but his focus is 100% on Minneapolis. He's calling these protesters paid insurrectionists. That's a heavy label. But did you hear the part where he basically sidelined his own Border Patrol commander? He calls Bovino out there and says, maybe it wasn't good here. That is a massive public pivot. He's bringing in Tom Homan to de-escalate, which is ironic if you know Homan's reputation. Trump is playing a double game, talking tough about monsters and criminals entering the country, while simultaneously pulling back the agents who caused the most friction on the ground. It's a classic political reshuffle right in the middle of a crisis.
Now, anti-ICE protests are underway in the Minnesota state capitol. This is St. Paul, Minnesota. This is where this is happening. This after Democrat governor there, Tim Walz, and Trump border czar Tom Homan spoke about immigration operations in the state following 2 deadly incidents in Minneapolis and the storming of a St. Paul church by left-wing agitators. So, Carrie, this is happening right now. Obviously, we're seeing these protests pop up all over the country, but this live out of St. Paul, Carrie?
Yeah, I'm looking at the anti-ICE protests, and I want to know what exactly they're anti. Is it the fact that federal law enforcement officers are enforcing federal law? Because that's completely allowable under the Constitution, under federal statute, and under Supreme Court precedent, right? Separately, are they protesting what they say is it's too aggressive, that the administration has taken the implementation too far? Now, that's a separate issue, but a lot of this has become conflated in the conversation. And at one point I think is really missing from the conversation and discussion on this is the specific role of the police in protecting the ICE agents. The police can't just stand aside. We've seen historical examples of that happening. ICE agents are just as deserving as protection as the protesters. And there seems to be this idea that ICE agents, anyone can go at them and interfere or attack and the like. And actually what the police are supposed to be doing is creating a...
Meanwhile, the fire is spreading to the state capitol. These people are furious because Governor Walz actually picked up the phone to talk to Trump. Look at the signs. Justice for Alex Pretty and Justice for Renee Good. These aren't just names. They are the catalyst for everything you're seeing. The crowd is basically accusing Walz of caving to the federal government. It's a total lose-lose for the governor right now. If he doesn't use the state police, the hotels get trashed. If he does, his own base turns on him at the Capitol. You can feel the betrayal in that room.
And we spoke for about 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes.
Did the president make any firm commitments that the course of this immigration operation will change?
Well, I asked two things were clear. First of all, I asked that we have a fair and independent investigation into the murder of both Renee Good and Alex, and that we have to be able to do that. And he said, We'll look at that. We'll take a look at that. And I said, we just have to reduce these numbers. We started out with that. And he pledged that, look, I'm going to send Tom Homan in. We'll do things differently. He explained to me how he thought it was very successful in Louisiana, very successful in Louisville, which I shared with him. But ICE did not shoot anybody there, and the presence was much smaller and much more targeted. Like they were doing actual ICE work. This is, as we've seen, massive numbers. So it was core.
Finally, listen to Walz's tone here. He sounds exhausted. He's demanding fair and independent investigations into the shootings. This is his attempt to regain control. He's trying to tell his citizens, I'm not a puppet, while acknowledging that he has to work with Homan. It's a fragile piece, and honestly, looking at that hotel footage from earlier, I don't think it's going to hold. Minnesota is the front line right now. Do you think Walz caved, or is he just trying to prevent more chaos? Drop a comment below and let me know.